Alright, so welcome back to the channel. It's been a hot minute since I've been playing with this windmill that I made ages ago. I'll drop the link down below for those of you that want to see me when I was putting it together. And then I think as part of that same video I did the mount for it. So the original plan was that I was going to take this, the plan was to put it up on the shed here as a bit of a supplement for power, and then the reason why I put it on the tripod that it's sitting on at the moment is so that I could take it camping with me. So I've changed my mind on that, only because by the time I actually get it set up off the shed and then to try and actually take it down again, take it with us when we go camping, I think it's just going to be not really feasible or sensible. So if I need more power, I'll just take either a generator or just an extra solar panel to keep the batteries charged that are in the caravan. So I'm going to take this off the tripod that it's sitting on and then make sure the holes line up, because I didn't do this before I built all this last time. I've got to make sure the holes line up for the mounts off the tripod here onto the bracket that's on the floor. So that's what I'll do. I don't know what size any of these nuts and bolts are. Might have put that straight up. Yep, sure did. Alright, that's all the nuts undone. Now I'm just going to get the bolts to fall out. One obliged. There we go. Okay. Alright, there's the unit. I'm going to tip it upside down and sit it on the ground somewhere. Alright, so this is the top of the mount where the windmill's actually going to go onto. So I'll just grab the plate that sits underneath it. And the holes are definitely not lining up where I'd like them to be. I'm just going to compare that against how much play I've got on the windmill itself. Not much. So basically I'm going to have to drill new holes. So I'm going to mark these at the opposite corners. Sorry, not at the corners, in the middle. So the holes basically here for this one, but you can actually see probably can't actually see it from where you are, but the hole's actually here. So the hole for this one is actually here, and it lines up with the hole that's there, but the hole for the other side is here, but then the hole's actually over there, so that's how far out it is in comparison. So I'm just going to line that up on there and then mark them and drill them. Alright, I can just see the marks on there. Okay, so I'm going to mark these holes. Alright, so I'm just going to drill a pilot hole first for each of these. Oops, I'm just going to drown it in cutting fluid as well, apparently. Alright, that's the first lot done. Now these are the bolts I'm planning on using. These are the ones that were in there previously. So I figured I'd just better make sure what size they are, whether they're an 8 or a 10, because I can't quite tell. That way it might save me having to drill a bigger hole. They're an 8. Okay. But the 10 will give me a bit more space, but it means that I can drill a smaller hole if I need to. Because there is a bit of play in the base of the windmill as well. So I think I'm going to go with an 8.5 because it's close, and it'll just give me that little bit of extra play if I need it. Alright, part 2. so this hole's drilled. Now I just do a bit of vacuuming and clean the mess up. Just give it a quick wipe down. And I'll see if my bolts line up. Alright, all those bolts line up okay. So now I will be able to put the windmill on. The other thing I've got to do is, I think this hole in here needs to be bigger, because it's got like a 12mm, 13mm, even bigger wiring loom on the bottom of it that's got to go in. So that hole's about 16 to 18mm. Actually, it's 18 by the time I take into account the edge of the, what do you call it, the nut that's in there. So it's 18mm. So this hole's going to have to be 18mm because of the nut that's got to go in there as well. Alright, so what I ended up doing off camera, because I just decided to do it because you didn't need to see it or hear it because it was extremely loud, I've ended up, because I couldn't get a drill bit, which I needed to be about 16mm size to cut that hole out with, so I just ended up cutting it out with this, which took a little while. That's okay. And somewhere over here, and there's the bit that I ended up with hanging off the screwdriver, because I ended up having to pull it off, because I think what I've done is one of these edges is right up against, oh no it's not, okay, one of these edges felt really thicker than the rest for some reason. I couldn't seem to get the saw through it, but obviously I hadn't. But anyway, it's out now. So I also did a test fit onto this. Of course, I haven't taken into account this washer that's sitting here. So I was either going to use this to space it out, because I can't mount that on the other side of the bracket. What I was going to do then was, I was going to use that, but then I need bigger bolts. And because it's only a washer, I'll just put washers underneath each of these, and then I can use shorter bolts that I've already got and I know work. So then the next thing I've got to do is extend this cable so that I can actually get it through this tube here. So it needs to be a few meters long. Well, obviously only about a meter long, because that's how big the post is. But then I needed to get it inside the shed here as well, because it's going to be coming in from over there on the outside of the shed. So for that, because I need 3 cores, I've decided that, even though it's probably not the right cable, this was a extension lead that's been sitting outside for years. This part's been glued on to its previous application, not by me, so I can't reuse it. So I've got to cut both ends off to redo it anyway. So I figured, well, if I'm going to cut the ends off, I'll just use it for this, because I've got some other cable, but I don't think the core size of the cable is actually adequate for carrying the power from the windmill. Not that it's that much, but I don't want to lose any anyway. So I shall just clean up this shaving of mess that I've got everywhere here, and we'll get on to putting the cable on. Alright, so quick and easy, obviously, to cut this lead off. The other thing I've got to figure out is how this thing works, because obviously the feed from the windmill actually goes into there, and then I get something out of here. So I don't know if this is actually supposed to be hooked up directly to a battery, or if it's got to go through a charge controller. I'm hoping it's got to go through a charge controller, so then I think I can just put it onto my solar controller, because once it gets the right voltage, it'll just start feeding that into the battery. So that's what I'm going to hope for and aim for. So I'll just put this up near one of those and hook it up when I've actually had a chance to measure it. So I've got the 2 ends now done. I'll just grab the windmill and actually solder one of these ends up. Obviously the other side's just going to stay loose until I actually get it back into the shed from outside. Okay, so good old heat shrink going on. Now this has been outside for a little while, so I might just trim all these off and redo them so that the wiring's all fresh. Right, first one going on. 1 down, 2 to go. Try not to burn myself. Won't be the first time, and it won't be the last time. Uh-oh. It's coming apart. Just give that one a minute to cool down a little bit. I hope this one stays together enough. for me to solder it, because I haven't got a lot of length on these. Alright, that's two done. I'll just put this last one back together again. Wait for that other one to cool down a little bit so that it doesn't come apart on me. Nothing worse when you just solder a wire up and then you touch it and the whole thing falls apart. Has anyone else had that happen? Start putting the heat shrink over. Righty, time to shrink the kids. Alright. So that's job done on that bit. So now the next bit is actually to take it outside and put it all up. So this cable is just going to feed through that black fence post. Just going to go all the way through and then just come out the bottom, and then I'm going to feed it along the bracket that I put on there previously, and then feed it straight into the workshop and take it from there. So I won't be able to film actually putting this up just because it's a little bit close to my neighbours, and I don't want the problem of having to explain while I'm filming near their backyard, privacy and all that. So I will take some photos once it's up, and I'll narrate that as I do in post. Alright, so as you can see from the photos, I've got the windmill up there now. Here's the cable coming in from up in the corner up there, and I'm just going to now hook it into the magic black box, and then we'll see what happens when it gets windy. Now, because this is an AC generator, I don't believe that it makes any difference with the way you end up wiring it up. I hope not, because they've not given any like numbering system on the actual connectors for this, so I can only assume not. From the other windmill I remember doing, there wasn't any polarity or anything like that, so it was just three lines in. And this is really fun to hold in midair while you're putting screws in. Alright, there we go. So what I think I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put these two connectors into one of my solar controllers that I've got up there and see what happens. Okay, so as you can see, it's sitting up there. It's wired into the controller. So now I'll just see what happens when we actually get some wind and see if it actually makes some power for me. Thanks for that one. Bit long between drinks from when I started that one to when I actually finally got it up. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to give it a like and a subscribe. Helps the channel out for me. And leave some comments down below. I'm happy to have a chat. And I'll see you in the next one.